Okay, you ready to get started, Corinne?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Carter Dorst, and I am the Executive Director of the Kensington Conservancy. If anyone here is not familiar with the Conservancy, we're a nonprofit charitable land trust located in the St. Joseph Channel area, just east of Sault Ste. Marie. We protect ecologically sensitive lands such as shoreline, wetlands, and significant wildlife habitat. We are, as a nonprofit charity, we're funded primarily through private donations, and we have a membership that anyone is welcome to join. In addition to our land protection we do that by accepting donations of land or purchasing properties. And we also do other
Right here.
stewardship events throughout the community and a lot of education, especially for youth. And yeah, so tonight, Corinne, who is our land stewardship coordinator, is going to talk to us about volunteering with the Kensington Conservancy. I just ask that you keep your videos off and your microphones off. And if you have any questions, you put them in the chat or ask at the end. So take it away, Corinne.
Okay, great. I just saw a comment in the chat though that Leanne Pearson was having a hard time hearing you. Can you hear me, Leanne? Or you might have to check your audio settings. Sometimes there's the little arrow on your mute button. It gives you options for your speakers and your microphones. Maybe while we figure that out, I'll get my screen shared. So hi, everyone. I'm Corinne Wilkerson. I'm the Land Stewardship Coordinator at the Kensington Conservancy. And I'm also in charge of anybody who wants to come volunteer with us. So I've tried to put together this webinar today to let you know a little bit about what kind of volunteer opportunities we have at the Kensington Conservancy. So let me just get the screen shared. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see that. I'm gonna just view here. Yeah, so as a not-for-profit organization, volunteers can provide tremendous support to help us reach our conservation goals. So this webinar will outline what it means to be a volunteer with TKC and some of the specific volunteer opportunities we have coming up this year. So some of the ways that volunteers can help. You can assist with monitoring wildlife populations. You can help engage with the public about conservation and land protection. And volunteering is also a great way to get outdoors and connect with the environment. And I have a picture here of a tree planting event we assisted with at the Thessalon Peace Park last summer. So TKC was asked to help provide some volunteers. So I called on my volunteer list and we had a few people come out. We actually had quite a great turnout and we got the trees planted along the shoreline there at the Peace Park within a few hours. So it was a great opportunity for just like a one-off event to come help out. So there's a couple of different ways that you can get involved with volunteering. I've separated into different categories, what I call project-based volunteer opportunities and non-project-based volunteer opportunities. So a project-based volunteer opportunity would be getting involved with our community science programs. They usually require a bit more of a time commitment to collect the data. And they also require accurate data collection and data submission. So some examples of that would be our water quality monitoring program, our bluebird nest box monitoring, and our property monitoring program. And then we also have non-project-based volunteer opportunities. These are usually one-day events that will require some volunteers. So your time commitment is usually just a few hours on that particular day. So some examples of that would be the Adopt a Highway cleanup that we do, maybe a trail cleanup or maintenance work bee, or helping out with a community event. And just for your interest, I've included a few pictures taken on some of our preserves that, you know, I take a lot of pictures throughout the season that we submit all of our observations to iNaturalist. So we have plenty of pictures of our beautiful plants and wildlife on our preserves. So I'm going to go into our project-based volunteer opportunities. So this is the water quality monitoring, bluebird box monitoring, and property monitoring. So here's a couple of pictures. Down below is actually, it was one of our summer students, Roxanne, that was testing the water on the Deborah River. And that's an example there in the photograph of what the water testing kit that we use. So if you volunteer, you would get one of those kits. I'll get into more detail about that in a second. And on the right is some tree swallows using one of our bluebird nest boxes that we have set up throughout the area, and some tree swallow eggs as well. So our water quality monitoring program is a community science program started last year, and it's in partnership with a not-for-profit organization called Water Rangers, who makes these compact test kits. So when you get a test kit, you have equipment in there to help you measure the pH of the water, alkalinity, hardness, chlorine, conductivity, water temperature, and water clarity. And the goal is to obtain a baseline measure of the health of water bodies associated with the Kensington Conservancy protected properties. So we're looking to track changes in water quality and detect potential health risks, such as algal blooms, temperature changes, high turbidity, and invasive species. So this picture is the compact freshwater test kit that you would get if you signed up to volunteer for this program. This big disc here, that's called the Secchi disc, that measures water quality. This little gadget here is the conductivity meter. You just stick that in a little cup of water, and it gives you, basically it's like the electrical current in the water, which is based on the amount of dissolved solids in the water. There's a thermometer to get air temperature, and these testing strips that you just basically dip in the water, and then there's a few different things on there that you kind of measure the colors against the legend on the side and determine your values. So they're very easy to use. So basically, your responsibility if you become a volunteer of this program, is to test the water at least one location once per month, between the months of May and August or September. So ideally you'd pick, say, you know, off the edge of your dock or some location that's convenient for you. The key is to always test at the same location, and you can test more than once per month, but that's the bare minimum. So generally testing is at the last Sunday or Monday of the month, and then all the data is submitted to Water Rangers, either via an app that you can download onto your phone if you have an Apple device, or through their website. And so you need to sign up for an account, and then I approve you to join like our TKC water quality monitoring group that's on there. So overall, to be a Water Ranger volunteer, your time commitment is approximately about a half hour just to train you on how to use the kit. They're very easy to use. And then depends on how much testing you do, but it can be 1 to 2 hours per month, May to September. Probably wouldn't even be that much if you're just testing one location. It only takes maybe 10 minutes to do the whole testing protocol, but some people like to test in more than one location, or more than once per month, you know, so it all depends on what you want to do. So the volunteer would need to commit to testing the water at their set location. once per month from May to September. So here, last year I had a group from the St. Joseph Island, the 4-H club, that were testing water at the WI Park Beach in Richards Landing. So it was great opportunity and experience for them. I think they really enjoyed it, and they learned a little bit about the importance of water quality, and they came away with some nice little badges. Another community science project that we have is our bluebird box monitoring. So this is a program that started in 2019 in partnership with Algoma University. And so there's, at that time, a bluebird trail was established with 50 nest boxes. So essentially it's kind of like a route that you can follow. And along that route there are 25 sites, each with 2 nest boxes. So you can see in the picture on the lower right that at each site there's 2 nest boxes set up side by side. So these nest boxes provide a secure cavity nesting site for the eastern bluebird and other species such as tree swallows, house wrens, and black-capped chickadees. So to volunteer for this program, your responsibility would be to check the status of the bluebird box nesting site every 3 to 4 days during the breeding season, which is mid-May to mid-July, and record the observations in the provided data sheet. So, and also follow the nest monitoring code of conduct. So we follow all the protocols from a place called Nest Watch, who houses all the data. So once we have all of the data at the end of the season, we submit it all to Nest Watch. So there's a lot of resources on there in terms of, like, you know, how to properly get to a nest and, you know, not disturb it and not attract predators and things like that. So it's quite anybody I have doing this, they find it pretty fun and engaging, because it's always nice to see kind of the life cycle, the eggs and the little chicks and the birds. And usually we see a lot of tree swallows in our nest boxes, not so many eastern bluebirds. And also I have seen some wrens and some chickadees as well. So the time commitment for this program is probably 1 to 2 hours per week during May, June, July. So nobody would ever be checking all of the bluebird boxes. It's just you would have maybe a few boxes in a certain area. And ideally, if you live kind of nearby where those are located, because it does get pretty intensive to have to check them so often. So one other program you could get involved with is our property monitoring. So TKC owns 11 nature preserves and 2 conservation easements, and we need to monitor each of these properties at minimum once per year. So monitoring involves visiting a property and looking for signs of wildlife use, making plant and animal observations, and assessing if any maintenance is required, recording any kind of disturbances, and assessing water quality. So if there's a stream or a wetland or a lake nearby, you'd just notice if there's any kind of changes or any kind of disturbances there. So the responsibilities for this type of program would be to visit the property at least once per season, but sometimes more visits are required. We might want to visit different parts of the property. Some of them are quite large. So if there's an opportunity to visit, you know, take one half day and go to one part, and then another day go to another section. It's always great if we're able to do that. We follow the 1 visit minimum, you know, depending on our time and capacity. So we have a data sheet that needs to be filled out to record all observations, and we try to identify as many plants and animals on the property during the visit, and we upload all these observations to iNaturalist. So one skill you must have to visit these properties is good navigation skills to be able to find your way through and back to where you went in. I mean, all of our properties are fairly easily accessible from main roads, but some of them are quite large. So once you get in, you need to be able to navigate your way through and out. And sometimes there's a fair bit of bushwhacking involved, things like that. So in this case here, we have Carter and one of our summer students, Bella, from last year. And here we were walking through a gravel point preserve, and there's a lot of wetlands through the center of that preserve. So you might find yourself having to, find your best route, to get around without getting your feet too wet or what have you. So the time commitment for this type of volunteer work would be, in terms of training, just, half hour, come by the office, showing you the data sheet, how to fill it in, and how to use iNaturalist if you don't already know how. And generally a property visit, depending on the size of the property and how much time you want to spend, can be like a half a day or a full day, depending on how long you want to be out there. And then time to do the data entry, back at the office if you need to do that. So that's about it for project-based volunteer opportunities. So I'll talk a little bit about non-project-based opportunities. So these are things that are like kind of one-day events where we're looking for volunteers to come help out. So some of these include our Adopt a Highway cleanup, our trail clearing and maintenance, and community engagement events. So we have an Adopt a Highway section, and it's between Kensington Road and Smith Road. And we try to do a cleanup there, usually in May before it starts getting too hot. And usually we try to do one in September as well. So try to get a group of volunteers together for that day and try to cover as much of the section as possible. And then we have safety protocols that we need to follow from the Ministry of Transportation. They provide us with the safety vests and all the garbage bags, and we pick up all the garbage and we just leave the bags on the side of the highway, and they come and pick them up. I let them know ahead of time that we're doing a cleanup that day, and they're very accommodating from that standpoint. So time commitment is, I've been finding the last few cleanups I've done, we've mostly spent about 3 to 4 hours. So like we'll start say at like 9 and go till around 1 o'clock. We don't usually a full day. We can do a full day, but I've just found my volunteers thus far are usually kind of spent by that time or have other activities they need to get to. So, and we can always do more than one cleanup, more than 1 or 2 cleanups as well. Just depends on time and the number of people we have available. So another way you can help out is with trail clearing and maintenance. So we have 2 hiking trails with the Kensington Conservancy. One is near our office on the Boyer Preserve and the Foster Parkland walking trails. So we have about 4 kilometers of trails there. And then we also have a trail at the Gravel Point Preserve, which, we will be planning to expand that trail this year as well. So responsibilities for this type of work would be to clear trees and branches along new trail routes. So if we are expanding the Gravel Point trails this year, for instance, once we have that route determined, we'd be looking to have some sort of a work bee to have people come out and help do a lot of the clearing and cutting and making that trail nice and clear. Another way you can help out is just helping to maintain our existing trails by clearing any kind of fallen branches or down trees or looking for any other issues. So you can see in this picture, we've got a tree that's kind of fallen a bit over the trail. and at some point that's going to need to be cut. So, if we had somebody who we knew we could call up, that maybe has experience with chainsaw, they could come and clean that up for us. So yeah, so if you're certified to use a chainsaw and experienced, we definitely appreciate if you're able to help with any kind of trail clearing. So the thing that we ask of you is if you have done any, if you've signed up to be a volunteer to do trail clearing and maintenance, that you notify us that you're planning to go out and what you did, and if any, or if you came across something that's beyond your capacity, let us know if there's some kind of maintenance that needs to be done. So the time commitment on this can be variable. It totally depends on your schedule. So if it's something that you enjoy doing, it can be just pretty casual, and however it works for you. Again, it's just communicating with us and letting us know when you might be able to go out. So another way we'd love to have volunteers help us out is with our community engagement events. So we go to a lot of community events especially throughout the summer. We try to set up a table, have a kids activity. We have all of our pamphlets and all of our information with the Kensington Conservancy there. And sometimes we have a little bit of merchandise. So, it's always nice to have some extra people there, especially if you're really interested in the Conservancy and what we do, learning to talk about those kinds of things with the public, or helping out with whatever kids activity we have arranged, or even assisting with coming up with an activity that you think kids would like to do. So basically your responsibility would be to represent TKC at an event and assist with the setup and takedown of the tables and assist with the kids' activities. So time commitment on this would be part or the whole day of the event, depending on your own schedule. So we have usually throughout the summer, we have a fair number of community events we like to get out to, between, Deborah, Richards Landing, Hilton Beach. There's all kinds of things going on, arts at the dock and car shows and community days and things like that. So if we're able to get and have a presence at a lot of those events, we do like to do that. But with the capacity of just Carter and I, we can't always get to everything. So that's where volunteers would come in and be really helpful. Yeah, so there's other ways you can volunteer too, besides what I've already talked about here. And so one way would be to lend your expertise. So if you have expertise in something that, might be of interest to either our members or to some of our some youth in the area, you could do something like be a guest presenter for our Junior Explorers program or our summer camp program. So our Junior Explorers program runs in July and August. We do kind of about 2-hour activity Mondays and Wednesdays for younger children. So we try to come up with a schedule of nature themed activities for them to do. So we're always looking for new ideas. So if there's some kind of expertise you can help out with on that, it'd be fantastic. And similarly for a summer camp program, we run a 1-week summer day camp out on St. Joseph Island at the Hunters and Anglers Club. So again, often we get guest presenters coming, to do a half-day workshop or something with the kids at the summer camp. So anything along that line would be wonderful. You could also offer to run some sort of a workshop if you're have specific knowledge about something that might be of interest, or good at building something that you'd want other people to do that has like a nature related theme, anything like that. We're open to all kinds of ideas. You could help us plan an event, or if you have event planning skills or fundraising skills, we'd love to hear from you. We have our webinar series, so we run that in the fall and winter. So we're always looking for guests to provide and present a webinar. Carter and I have we have a lot of topics that we cover, but it's nice to have a guest presenter come in and talk about a whole new subject that you don't have that kind of expertise on. The other option would be to lead some sort of guided excursion throughout the summer and winter. All through the year, we offer guided hikes and things like that on our preserves, or in areas that we're well aware of. But there might be areas that maybe you have a specialty of, or maybe you have a specialty in a certain type of plant ID or animal tracking or geology, or some kind of special knowledge, and it'd be neat to take people out to learn about. So you'd be more than welcome to offer up your services for that. Or if there's any other thing that you'd like to see TKC doing, we're always open, and if you have the time to offer help lead that initiative, we definitely welcome that. So I've been trying this past few months to sort of formalize our volunteer intake process. So I started with the volunteer application form that we have on our website, which is just to collect your information and a little bit of information about your own interests. So that just comes to me so that I know you're interested in volunteering. You could also just email me that same information, and that's fine too. The next step would be to join our volunteer email list for upcoming opportunities. If I'm looking for somebody, especially for like a one-off event, I'll post that on our volunteer email list. So I don't send out I'm not going to spam you with a lot of emails or anything, but it's good to be on that list if you're interested in volunteering, and then you can see what kind of opportunities might be coming up. So once you sort of show your interest in volunteering, I'll contact you for more information. So this is the more formalized thing that I've been doing. So I've created a volunteer handbook, which just gives you some information about the Conservancy and about our preserves, and sort of what kind of activities are allowed or not allowed, some safety information, things like that. So we ask that you read that through, and we have some volunteer intake forms. So just general information and your emergency contact information, and a few waivers for you to sign. And if it's applicable, like if you'd be working with, with the junior explorers or summer camper, children under 18, you'd have to do a vulnerable sector check, which can be done through your local police office. And that's my presentation, and that's all I have to say. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Green. That was great. We did have one question in the chat about how does one get certified with chainsaw. So Sioux College does offer chainsaw certification courses. There's probably others in Sault Ste. Marie that do it as well, but that's just the first one that came up. So yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to turn your mic on, turn your video on, and ask.
So this is Nancy. I've unmuted myself. The Bluebird boxes, where are they located? Corinne mentioned that if they were close to where you lived, it was easier, but I have no idea where
Yeah, I thought about putting a map up, but they're really spread out. So there's a bunch of them up on Gordon Lake Road. There's another bunch of them kind of on Highway 7, on a property along Highway 17, sort of between Bruce Vines and Deborah. There's a couple at the Black Hole Preserve. There's a few up Smith Road. So they're kind of, yeah, like if it's something you'd be interested in, we could talk about it. And if there's, you know, a batch that would be close-ish for you to get to, certainly that could be arranged and figured out.
All right, any other questions? All right, not seeing any, so I think that's all for tonight. Thanks again, Corinne, for doing this, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We've recorded the webinar tonight, so if you want to check back on anything, it'll be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. I'll send out a link to everybody, or you can contact Corinne or I directly for any follow-up. So have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Was that he actually finished the match very
All right, everyone's gone.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
Okay. So,
All right, see you tomorrow.
see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.